Have you ever awakened from a dream so vivid that the world itself felt uncertain? A dream that left behind more than a feeling, something real. In the twilight of the Victorian age, when science and superstition still wrestled for dominion over the mind, one scholar sought to document these mysteries. His name was Andrew Lang, and in the Book of Dreams and Ghosts, he gathered true accounts, testimonies, coincidences, and impossible revelations, recorded by those who swore their dreams had crossed into reality. He did not claim they proved the supernatural, only that the boundary between sleeping and waking might be thinner than we think. Tonight, by the faint light of a candle and the whisper of turning pages, we open that forgotten volume and step into 7 dreams that came true. Our first tale begins in a quiet country house in Scotland, where Mrs. Ogilvy of Drumquay lived with her son and 3 daughters. They were a sensible family, comfortable, well-educated, and entirely unaccustomed to tales of madness. But one morning, something peculiar passed through their home, like an echo from another world. The eldest daughter came down to breakfast and said lightly, "I had an odd dream last night. I dreamed that Fanti went mad." Her brother paused. "That's strange," he replied. "I dreamed the same." They laughed it off until the mother called from her room upstairs, pale and shaken. "Turn that dog out," she cried. "I dreamed Fanti went mad and bit." By afternoon, the 2 younger daughters returned from a visit to friends. "How was your stay?" their sister asked. "Not restful," one replied. "I dreamed Fanti went mad." "So did I," said the other, "and in my dream he turned into a cat, and we threw him into the fire. 5 people, all within the same night, shared the same nightmare. 5 minds linked by something unseen. And yet, Fanti lived out his days a gentle, loyal poodle, never showing the slightest sign of madness. What had they shared then? A ripple in the family's collective mind? A coincidence magnified by imagination? Or a fleeting glimpse into some dream realm where thought itself can echo from one mind to another? Andrew Lang, ever the skeptic, offered no answer. He merely recorded it, as one of many proofs that dreams, like ghosts, may sometimes refuse to stay confined to the dark. Story 2. The Swithinbank Brothers, The Dream of Death. It was the spring of 1813, during the long shadow of the Napoleonic Wars. 3 young officers, brothers, the sons of a Yorkshire family named Swithinbank, were stationed at Dover, preparing for service abroad. Their mother remained at home in Bradford, proud, anxious, and ever waiting for news from her sons. On the morning of May 20th, after parade, the brothers met as usual. William, the eldest, broke their routine silence with a nervous laugh. "I had a queer dream last night," he said. "I dreamed that Mother was dead." His brother frowned. "So did I." And before the 2 could speak again, the youngest, John, turned pale. "You dreamt it too? I thought it was only me 3 dreams." 3 identical visions, seen by 3 men sleeping in different quarters of the same camp, each believing it his own private nightmare. Later that day, a letter arrived from home. Their mother had died, during the same night they dreamed of her. Was it only coincidence? Was there some unseen thread that tugged at all 3 hearts in the hour of her passing? Lang, ever cautious, admits that dreams of death are common, and coincidences inevitable. But even he could not ignore the unsettling precision of this one. The same image, the same night, shared among 3 sleeping minds. He wrote, "Such things may not prove the supernatural, yet they whisper of connections science has yet to name. And so, the brother's dream became one more haunting entry in his ledger of impossible truths. Story 3: The Pig in the Dining Room. From soldiers' dreams of death, we turn to something humbler, and perhaps for that reason, even stranger. For not all prophecies arrive robed in tragedy. Some wear the absurd mask of domestic life. In the episcopal palace of Hereford lived Mrs. Attlee, the wife of a bishop, a dignified woman who, one night, dreamed a dream so ridiculous that she laughed at herself upon waking. She dreamt there was a pig in the dining room, not a symbol, not a ghost, just a common farm animal, standing on the fine rug beneath the chandelier, grunting amid the gleam of polished silver. At breakfast, she told her family of it, still amused. The governess and children laughed. Even the servants smiled as they gathered for morning prayers. Then, after prayers were done, Mrs. Attlee rose, took up the keys, and opened the door to the dining room. There, upon the carpet, stood a very real pig, mud-stained and bewildered, having escaped from the sty and wandered through the open door. For a moment, silence fell. The laughter from the hall still hung in the air as reality answered the dream. Lang, with his scholar's calm, noted that such coincidences must occasionally occur, that among 1,000 absurd dreams, one is bound to meet its mark. Yet there is something undeniably uncanny about the way nonsense turned to truth within the span of a single morning. Perhaps the mind, in its midnight wandering, catches some faint tremor of events already set in motion. A rustle of hooves in the courtyard, a latch left unfastened, the stirring of a creature soon to wake. And so the bishop's wife dreamed of a pig before dawn. And by breakfast, the prophecy was fulfilled. Story 4: The Mignonette, the Dream of Bees and Wasps. The Herberts had just returned from London to their country home on the border, a quiet, familiar garden waiting to welcome them back. Evening light fell across the paths, touching the beds of mignonette that lined the walk toward the old vinery. They meant to visit it that night, but fatigue overcame them, and they postponed their stroll until morning. That night, Mrs. Herbert dreamed. In her dream, she and her husband walked down that same garden path. The air was alive with the low, furious hum of bees, a dark swarm clouding above the flowers. And there, in the dream, the gardener appeared, warning them not to go nearer. She woke uneasy, but thought little of it. Dreams are strange, and daylight has a way of dissolving them. The next morning, with the sun gentle on the grass, she took her husband's arm, and together they walked the very path she had dreamed. When they reached the mignonette bed, she stopped short. The air was thick, not with bees, but with wasps. A nest had been disturbed near the vinery, and hundreds of the insects darted furiously through the air, their wings catching the light like shards of glass. At that moment, the gardener appeared, just as in her dream, urging them to step back. It was all the same, except for one small detail. In the dream, they had been bees. In waking life, they were wasps. Lang noted it dryly. The simplest of coincidences, perhaps. But one can't help wondering how the mind knew where to walk, what to fear, and whom to meet, hours before any of it had come to pass. Was it instinct, intuition, or something subtler? A whisper through the walls of time? Whatever the answer, Mrs. Herbert never again walked to the mignonette bed without remembering that dream. Story 5: The Lost Cheque. the dream that remembered. In London, one late night, a barrister known to Andrew Lang sat alone beneath the yellow glow of a gas lamp, writing letters long past midnight. When the clock struck 12:30, he sealed the envelopes, put on his coat, and stepped out to post them in the quiet, empty street. Returning home, he undressed and froze. A check for a large sum of money was missing. He searched his desk, his coat, every drawer and pocket. Nothing. The anxiety that had haunted his clients now turned inward, cold and precise. Finally, exhausted, he went to bed. And he dreamed. In the dream, he saw the check, not lost or stolen, but curled like a dead leaf around the black iron railing of an area gate, just steps from his own door. It fluttered slightly, as though the night wind had caught it. He woke with a start. The image was too clear, too vivid to dismiss. He dressed again, descended the stairs, and stepped into the dim street. There, caught between the bars of the railing, was the check, just as he had seen it. Later, he reasoned that his waking eyes must have noticed it fall as he walked to the letterbox, but that his conscious mind, distracted, had let the detail slip away. His deeper memory, unbidden, had kept it, and in the quiet of sleep, sent up the answer. Lang saw it as proof that the dreaming brain does not rest. It remembers what the waking mind forgets. Yet to the man himself, the experience remained uncanny, as if another version of him, the self that never sleeps, had whispered through the veil of dreams. Look again. Story 6. The Duck's Eggs, a Child's Prophetic Dream. Among Andrew Lang's many correspondents was a little girl, clever, cheerful, and proud of her small flock of ducks. Every morning she went searching for their eggs, hoping to sell them to her mother for pocket money. One day, the ducks vanished into the tangle of fields and gray rock beyond the garden wall, and no one could find where they'd begun to lay. The child searched all morning, then all afternoon, and at supper she sighed. "Perhaps I shall dream of them tonight," she said, hopefully. That night she did. In her dream she walked through sunlight and shadow, across a patch of broom and purple mallow. There, between the stones of a small field known as the Pony's Field, she saw the nest. Pale eggs tucked between the grass and rock. When morning came, she ran out before breakfast, still in her nightdress, hair flying. Her mother called after her, but she didn't stop until she reached the spot from her dream. And there they were, the eggs, exactly as she had seen them, warm beneath the down and the morning sun. Lang offered a calm explanation, that perhaps she had glimpsed the place without realizing it, and her sleeping mind simply pieced the clues together. But one suspects he smiled as he wrote it, for even reason cannot quite erase the charm of a child's intuition. Sometimes the boundary between waking and dreaming is not a wall at all, but a window, open just wide enough for the truth to slip through. Story 7. The Lost Key, the Dream that Led Her Back. In the green countryside of Ireland, Lady X, a woman of good sense and practical mind, spent the afternoon walking alone through the woods that bordered her estate. The air was heavy with late summer light, and she carried with her a small silver key, one that opened the desk in which her husband kept important papers. When she returned to the house, the key was gone. She retraced her steps through the winding paths, the moss-covered roots, the fallen leaves, but the forest gave up no secret. Servants were sent out with lanterns, combing the ground until the light faded and the first stars appeared. Nothing. At last, Lady X retired for the night, her thoughts turning in quiet frustration. Sleep came, slow and uncertain. And then, the dream. She saw herself standing once again in the wood, sunlight filtering through the branches, the air thick with the scent of damp earth. Before her rose a great oak tree, its bark ridged and dark. At its roots, half covered by moss, glinted something small and bright. The key. She woke before dawn, dressed quickly, and went out into the cool morning mist. Guided by the memory of her dream, she walked directly to the old oak. There, pressed into the soil exactly as she had seen it, lay the silver key, tarnished by dew, but otherwise untouched. Later, she would tell friends her own explanation, that her eyes had noticed it fall, though her mind had not, and in sleep, her deeper self had simply remembered. Lang agreed. It was reason enough. And yet, as with all such tales, he left space for doubt. For if the sleeping mind can find what waking eyes forget, then what other truths might it hold, just beyond our reach? And so, through these 7 tales, Andrew Lang offered no grand answers, only questions written in the flicker of candlelight. He called every ghost a hallucination, every vision a dream. Yet his collection remains haunted, not by spirits of the dead, but by the mystery of the living mind. For who among us has not dreamed something that felt more than dream? A place we've never seen, a voice we cannot forget, an echo that seems to follow us into the day. Lang's book reminds us that the border between waking and sleeping, life and death, fact and imagination, is not a wall, but a door. And sometimes, in the still hours before dawn, that door quietly opens. If tonight's wander through the archives of sleep and shadow has stirred something in you, a memory, a chill, or simply curiosity, then I invite you to linger with the old Ink Society, where forgotten pages still whisper, and the past refuses to rest quietly. There are many more tales waiting in the dust, dreams that foretold disaster, ghosts that never were, and mysteries written long before our time. We've only just begun to turn the pages. Until next time, dear listener, may your own dreams be kind, or, if they must wander into darker places, may they return with nothing more than a story. Sleep well. And if you hear a knock at your door tonight, perhaps best not to answer.